I've received notice from the First and the Deputy First Minister that they wish to make a statement. Before I call the Minister, I want to remind members that they must be concise in asking their question. This is not an opportunity for debate or long introductions. Deputy First Minister.
Thank you, Principal Deputy Speaker. The East West Council was established as part of the Safeguarding the Union command paper published by the UK Government in January this year, ahead of the return of the Executive. It is a unique new forum, bringing key representatives from government, civil society and business together to identify opportunities for deepening connections in areas such as trade, transport, education, sport and culture. There are existing statutory structures already in place to facilitate cooperation between the United Kingdom Government and the Irish Government, between the Northern Ireland Executive and Irish Government, and between all of the jurisdictions across these islands. So it is important to remember that the Council's role is not to replicate these already well-established arrangements, but rather complement them. There is significant potential in strengthening the cooperation between Northern Ireland, Wales, Scotland and England, so we can address shared challenges, grasp shared opportunities and improve the lives of people here. The East West Council will raise the profile of the opportunities Northern Ireland offers by supporting connectivity between business, skills, trade and innovation within the United Kingdom. It will act in an advisory function to drive East-West engagement, to develop and share existing clusters of excellence, and will seek to raise the profile of Northern Ireland in decision-making across business and governments. The Council's work will be driven by targeted missions outlined in the command paper, designed to tackle some of Northern Ireland's most challenging issues. These include economic inactivity, East-West institutional connectivity, and trade flows, as well as international investment. The Inaugural Council meeting took place in Dover House, London, on the 26th of March. It was chaired by the Secretary of State for Levelling Up and Minister for Intergovernmental Relations, Michael Gove, Secretary of State for Northern Ireland, Chris Heaton-Harris, Minister of State for Northern Ireland and Cabinet Office, Steve Becker, and the Parliamentary Under-Secretary of State for Levelling Up, Jacob Young, were also in attendance. The Minister for the Economy, Conor Murphy, and Communities Minister, Gordon Lyons, accompanied myself and the First Minister. The first meeting focused on the Council's strategic direction and governance. We stressed the need to boost economic, educational, sporting and cultural opportunities in Northern Ireland. We highlighted the importance of enhancing the links across the UK so we can work together on a wide range of issues to deliver real benefits for everyone here. We want to see more connectivity between business, skills, trade and innovation across the UK, and we want to find solutions to shared challenges. We also want to raise the profile of the opportunities Northern Ireland offers to investors, as well as supporting export and import markets in key sectors. In addition, we must not lose sight of the opportunities presented by maximising trade within this United Kingdom. While bodies exist for the facilitation and promotion of the UK's international trade, we also discussed opportunities that a new body, Intertrade UK, could bring to promote trade and unlock barriers within the United Kingdom. As well as discussing governance and strategic direction, the Council also endorsed £150 million for the new enhanced investment zone in Northern Ireland, which will provide targeted incentives and interventions to encourage investment and boost growth. In addition, we welcomed the announcement of awards totalling more than £17 million from the UK Shared Prosperity Fund, which will be used to support adult numeracy and business innovation here. As part of this, an award of £11.2 million will also go to Invest Northern Ireland to boost the take-up of new technologies and innovations, as well as develop and grow important sectors such as manufacturing, health and life sciences and agri-food. The Council also recognised the positive impact of the Community Ownership Fund here, which reflects our strong and vibrant charitable, community and voluntary sector, and endorsed the third and final round of funding for this initiative. This will help bring back spaces to life and enable communities to take ownership of important community assets. These projects are examples of the UK Government and the Executive cooperating to address the needs of people and businesses in Northern Ireland. The East West Council is expected to meet regularly. The Secretary of State for Levelling Up, Housing and Communities and Minister for Intergovernmental Relations will sponsor the Council and chair when in attendance. The Secretary of State for Northern Ireland will act as the co-sponsor and deputy chair. The Secretariat for the Council will also engage directly with departments via their respective private offices on specific matters to be discussed at future Council meetings. Ministers will continue to bring specific issues to the Executive as required and ensure the Assembly is kept informed as appropriate. I trust that members will view the creation of the Council as a catalyst for positive change. By bringing together the collective experience, knowledge and expertise of its members, the Council will be a vehicle for overcoming obstacles, seizing opportunities and harnessing the immense potential that Northern Ireland has to offer for the benefit of all who live, work and do business here. That concludes the statement.
Thank you, Deputy First Minister. I call Matthew O'Toole.
Thank you, Madam President. Speaker. Deputy First Minister, while no one would doubt the importance of discussing matters of common interest, trade, cultural exchange, etc., it is important to be clear that this is not an institution set up under the Good Friday Agreement. It has no statutory underpinning, and so, as an opposition, we would be clear that it does not have the same status either in law or under the agreement as either the North-South Ministerial Council or indeed the British-Irish Council. But can I ask, at the start of this statement it says, you say there is significant potential in strengthening cooperation between Northern Ireland, Wales, Scotland and England. That is certainly true and I wouldn't dispute that. Why then were there no representatives from devolved administrations in Scotland and Wales, and have they given any indication that they wish to participate in this forum?
Minister.
I thank the member for his question. Indeed, this was an initiative that came forward out of the Safeguarding the Union paper, which is an agreement between Northern Ireland and the United Kingdom government, a negotiation between Northern Ireland and the United Kingdom government. So therefore, the initiative came out of those discussions, and that is why the inaugural meeting particularly focused on that engagement between Northern Ireland and the United Kingdom government. It was made clear, though, at that meeting and indeed in the press afterwards, that other jurisdictions would be invited to participate in this, and indeed we have had correspondence from the Scottish Government in relation to this matter in particular. This is a forum for all of the United Kingdom and strengthening relationships across and within the United Kingdom. So yes, I think there will be interest from others to take part, but I think it's important also to point out that there's also benefit in cooperation in terms of other regions. So for example, there are matters where we will have more in common with farmers in Northern Ireland and farmers in Yorkshire than the farmers in Yorkshire may have with those in London. So of course there's good reasoning for cooperation across the regions, not just the devolved areas in the UK.
I call Paula Bradshaw, Chair of the TO Committee.
Thank you, Principal Deputy Speaker, and thank you, Deputy First Minister, for your statement. I have two parts to it. First of all, we know that you talked about maximising opportunities for trade. Just wondering, did you talk about the opportunities arising from dual market access? And also, in terms of the Levelling Up Fund, as you know, there was a delay in the payments arriving in Northern Ireland. Were you able to discuss how those delays will be mitigated against and how improvements in terms of the drawdown of funding will be improved in the future? Thank you.
Minister.
I thank the member for her question. The meeting primarily focused on the strategic objectives and the way forward and the potential for this new body. So it was at a higher level. But I believe that everybody around the table were excited about the opportunities this could bring. It is a body that focuses primarily on internal relationships and improving that cooperation and relationships across not just the political, but also the potential for civic, for educational and for business groups as well. So that was the primary focus of this, but of course growing our economy and trade will be something that will feature, particularly as the UK Government proceeds with the development of Intertrade UK. In relation to the specific issue around the delays of levelling up, it is our view, yes, it was raised in terms of ensuring that Northern Ireland has a more meaningful say at all stages of policy development, but, including in terms of the delivery and the rollout of that. But I am a great believer that to help those relationships and strengthening of those relationships, including through this forum, will be of benefit.
Thank you, Minister. I call Gary Middleton.
Thank you, Principal Deputy Speaker, and can I thank the Deputy First Minister for her answers so far, and can I say and welcome the first meeting. And I think that this is a vehicle which can be used to strengthen each of the constituent parts of the UK. Deputy First Minister, can you outline how you see this council progressing, but also what opportunities there may be for civil society to become engaged in this very useful council?
Minister.
I thank the member for his question. Indeed, touching on some of what has already been discussed here, this isn't a body which is currently with a statutory basis. It is not something that is therefore rigid, where there are parameters which perhaps limit the opportunity for this. So I do think that there's a really good opportunity for us all now to look at where this body can be of most benefit. And I think there's no doubt that we wouldn't want this to be confined and rigid. I think it's important that it is flexible and agile and can respond to the needs and issues as they occur. There's absolutely no doubt that there are many shared challenges across this United Kingdom. But there are also opportunities to look at where solutions have been found elsewhere that can be of help for us here. So the sharing up that knowledge is critically important, but that is not just at a political level. We know that many of the solutions and the delivery of those solutions are based in the civic and community sector, and therefore building those relationships between the civic and community sector across the United Kingdom is a huge opportunity for us, and an opportunity that I believe will be of significant benefit for everybody here in Northern Ireland. Thank
you, Minister. I call Doug Beattie.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the Minister for the statement. I mean, we always say more engagement is good, but can I ask a very simple question? What's the difference between the East-West Council and the Intergovernmental Relations Framework, a three-tier system of engagement between the UK nations, also chaired by the Secretary of State for Levelling Up?
Minister.
I thank the member for his questions. I think my understanding is that the origin of this body very much came from the fact that in terms of the structured institutions under the Belfast Good Friday Agreement, you had a number of key bodies which supported communication in terms of North-South, in terms of British and Irish, and in terms of all-Ireland. But there was nothing that focused particularly and specifically on internal UK. You will be aware, and you referenced the interministerial governmental structures, that is a transition that happened because of decisions by the UK government arising under the review of the bodies that existed prior to that in terms of joint ministerial councils and the sectoral bodies. But those tend to be structured in nature, specific in terms of the sectoral responsibilities that they have, and I think it's fair to say frustrating by some at times. I think this body is designed to be that engagement at a political level that is both agile and flexible and be able to respond to that building of those relationships. We have seen very much good work happening, I think, in terms of building relationships north-south across civic, business and political engagement, and yet we haven't had that for the decades in terms of the across the UK piece, that cooperation in the United Kingdom. And I think that there's a real opportunity here through this new body, rather than dealing with specifically governmental issues that those other bodies do, that we can talk about strategic issues across a whole range of sectors to the benefit of people of Northern Ireland and, in my view, the UK.
Tom Buchanan, please.
Thank you, Madam Principal Deputy Speaker. Minister, in the fourth paragraph of your report, it states that the Council's role is not to replicate already well-established arrangements, but rather complement them. Can you outline how the Council's work will act to complement existing structures such as SPIC and IMG meetings?
Minister.
I thank the member for his question, and building on the response to the last question, I do believe that this will be important in terms of building those relationships between ministers from all jurisdictions, but as indicated in relation to looking at exciting initiatives and opportunities with civic, business, educational, university. That is to benefit in terms of funding applications. It's also to benefit, in my view, of trying to problem solve at an earlier stage. There's no doubt that we do have structures there, but there's also no doubt that there's been some frustrations at times about an inability to get some of these issues resolved. I believe this body gives us the opportunity to look strategically, first of all, look at what's not working right, but have a forum, as I've said, which is agile enough to respond to emerging issues and to be able to do some exciting initiatives building on the best practice in relation to those bodies, not to replicate but to complement and to supplement those, but also to take some of those really good projects that we've seen elsewhere that work well in terms of collaboration and to bring that forward, as I said, to the benefit of our university, civic, business and political institutions across this United Kingdom.
I call Connie Egan.
Thank you, Madam Principal Deputy Speaker. Thank you, Deputy First Minister, for the update. I note your comments that this is solely about internal UK matters and trade. I just want some reassurance that we're not maybe missing out on other opportunities. Trade does obviously not exist in a vacuum, and other opportunities which it links into, obviously things such as higher, further education, housing and public health. Minister.
Absolutely, I thank the member for her question. You're absolutely right, and I think that is the great benefit of this. This is something that we can shape as a concept. It is fundamentally based on building better relationships, having a key forum that will meet at least 3 times a year, so we know that there will be those opportunities both to raise grievances and problems and challenges, but also to ask for that shared support and finding solutions to some of those. But you're absolutely right, and I think the announcements coming out of the East West Council at Inaugural, the East West Council, looking at that investment through the Shared Prosperity Fund, looking at the initiatives around educational underachievement and adult numeracy, looking at the additional funding for investment in businesses and in green technology and in R&D and other aspects show that there is potential here, both in terms of the discussion of those important strategic objectives, but also in urging announcements and securing commitments in relation to real actions against those. So I'm very excited about the opportunities around this. It is really for us to shape and to build and to make of it what we can, and I genuinely believe we all should be focused on ensuring that we maximise the potential of this exciting new body.
I call David Brooks.
Thank you, Madam Principal Deputy Speaker, or Deputy Principal Deputy Speaker. Could I thank the Minister for her answer so far? Could I ask her if she had any insight to share on what will be discussed at the meetings going council meetings going forward, and if education will form part of that?
I thank the member for his question. And indeed, it was quite a wide-ranging conversation. It was fortunate, I think, that the Under-Secretary of State for Levelling Up, Jacob Young, was present because he is involved in many of the Levelling Up type projects which reach across education, it reaches across community investment. That really good scheme in terms of community ownership is a really good example of that, where communities in Northern Ireland, I think, have benefited from this more so than any other place in the United Kingdom, and that is taking those assets within the communities, often buildings or different facilities that perhaps are a blight, that are not being used currently, and being able to take those into community ownership for the benefit of the community. That has been hugely positive, and there's been a significant amount of interest here in Northern Ireland. So it was a good conversation covering many of those elements, but we did have a conversation about educational underachievement, recognising that the challenges that we have with educational underachievement, particularly with those in receipt of free school meals, is a common one across many of the areas in Scotland, England and Wales. And there are some really good projects that have been rolled out in those areas with proven outcomes, and I think it would be really positive for us to examine whether those are suitable for rolling out in Northern Ireland. So there's definitely an interesting stream of work that can be taken from that initial meeting.
Thank you, Minister. I call Diane Forsyth.
Thank you, Madam Principal Deputy Speaker, and thank you, Deputy First Minister, for her answers so far. I just want to build a little bit more on the question from the Leader of the Opposition around the participation in the Council of colleagues from the Scottish and Welsh administrations, and if they have proposed any matters that they would like to discuss at this in your work with them so far.
Minister.
I thank the member for her question. Indeed, as indicated, this came out of the Safeguarding the Union command paper, which is primarily around relationships and different issues between Great Britain and Northern Ireland. But there's no doubt that this is very much about building relationships across the United Kingdom. It's not just in terms of Northern Ireland to Great Britain. It strikes me very often that we don't do enough collaboration across all of our departments, across civic and business and community education with our counterparts in Scotland and Wales and England. But as I said, look, there are also huge commonalities, both in challenges and opportunities between the regions of the UK as well. Our farmers in Northern Ireland have similar challenges and issues as those farmers from Yorkshire, from Devon, from Cornwall, in parts of Scotland and Wales. And getting people together to look at solutions, including in terms of green technology and in relation to innovation in business, and looking at how we support communities in that regard, there is certainly a huge amount of benefit, not just in terms of the other devolved regions that have shown an interest in this, and they have, but also the regions within those devolved administrations as well.
Thank you, Minister. I call Sinead McLaughlin.
Speaker, and thank you, Minister, for your answer so far. You discussed in the statement about £150 million for new enhanced investment zone, which will provide targeted incentives and interventions. Can you tell me how targeted will those incentives be and interventions? And will regional balance form a significant part of the decision-making process in any investment that is coming into Northern Ireland? And will there be any democratic accountability for this executive on those targets and incentives?
Minister.
I thank the member for her question. The member will be aware that whenever we have been discussing the prosperity agenda about growing the economy here in Northern Ireland, we've always been careful to highlight that we want that to be across and throughout Northern Ireland, not just for one part of Northern Ireland. My understanding of the Enhanced Investment Zone is it's a very particular vehicle designed for Northern Ireland and builds on the investment zones that have been rolled out elsewhere in the UK. It will have flexibility within that. That will include on some tax incentives, but also other incentives potentially around national insurance and around supporting companies. But my view is that this is at a comparatively early stage, and again we're able to shape what that enhanced investment zone looks like. One of the issues that I have raised is the need for that big infrastructure piece. We know that there are big challenges and issues within, for example, water and sewage and energy. Those things are absolutely necessary in terms of economic growth and supporting companies to both expand and to set up here. So I think there's potential with this, but I can advise the member it is at an early stage. It's been led by UK government, but of course the executive and particularly the Department of the Economy will be feeding into that to shape that, to make sure it is fit for purpose and it benefits all throughout Northern Ireland.
I call Brian Kingston.
Thank you, Madam Principal Deputy Speaker, and I thank the Minister for her statement and for answers so far. And certainly it is very positive to see the East West Council now up and running and flowing from the Safeguarding the Union command paper. And I wish to ask the Minister, would she agree with me that the East West Council is an important and useful tool for shared learning between central government and the devolved regions of the United Kingdom?
Minister.
I thank the member for his question. Indeed, I think in relation to both policy development, the design of interventions, the way that those interventions are rolled out, and even the way that we measure how effective those interventions are in relation to outcomes-based accountability in terms of indicators, in terms of evaluation, all of those things have developed significantly, in my view, over the course of the last number of years, and there's really good examples of that being rolled out elsewhere across the United Kingdom, across the globe, but also across the United Kingdom. I think Northern Ireland is, of course, a small place, and there is no need for us to constantly try to reinvent wheels, to reinvent solutions to the challenges that we face, because very often those challenges are common, and we do then have the ability to look elsewhere to say, look, what is an intervention that has worked, for example, in educational underachievement? How has a particular region significantly improved their figures in terms of economic inactivity? And identifying those types of solutions, checking to see if they're fit for purpose for Northern Ireland, tailoring them if needs be, but that accelerates the solutions to the big challenges that we are facing. And of course that shared learning is essential. We have so much in common across this United Kingdom, and let's try to find shared solutions to some of the big challenges and maximise the shared opportunities that we have.
I call Jim Allister.
According to this statement, trade flows is one of the interests of this East-West Council, yet I find not one reference to the greatest impediment to those trade flows, namely the partitioning Irish Sea border, of which the DUP now has ownership. Why is that? Secondly, this is a body without a secretariat, without a budget, and all the announcements relating to funding aren't its announcements. They are the product of other developments. Isn't it the truth of it? This is just a talking shop to provide the DUP with a fig leaf for its somersault into being protocol implementers.
Minister.
I thank the member for his question. I believe that this will be an important body in terms of building those relationships and tackling those shared challenges and maximising those shared opportunities across our United Kingdom. This is the first time that we have a truly United Kingdom level body arising from all of those other bodies that didn't deal with the internal and exclusive issues of the United Kingdom from the Belfast Good Friday Agreement. In terms of trade flows, I will use the example of the many services issues across this United Kingdom where if people are applying for something or they're seeking insurance or they're doing other issues, they will proceed through that only to be told that it does not apply to Northern Ireland. Services are not impacted by the Windsor Framework or by Brexit, but yet services for many years, and everybody out there in Northern Ireland will know this, did not apply equally to Northern Ireland. There's always been an issue of asterisk does not apply in Northern Ireland, and therefore that needs to be addressed. There needs to be a better understanding, and of course the UK government must be held to account to fulfil the promises that they have made in terms of unfettered and free flow trade internal to this United Kingdom with zero checks. Now it is absolutely clear that what is happening is that some businesses do not understand the procedures, and that needs to be tackled, and we have put it to the UK government that they must, and Intertrade UK will have an important role in this, that they must take action to ensure that businesses in Great Britain are fully aware of what they can do in terms of internal UK trade, and that they don't unnecessarily either prevent their goods from going to Northern Ireland by saying simply it doesn't, Northern Ireland can't get those goods, or that they are going through unnecessary procedures. So this will work in a number of ways of both promoting awareness to businesses in the private sector, but also for us to be able to hold the feet of the UK government to the fire to fulfil their commitments which they have given to the people of Northern Ireland to ensure free-flowing and unfettered internal UK trade.
I call Jerry Carroll.
Given the sabre-rattling, scaremongering and scapegoating towards our asylum seeker and refugee brothers and sisters, particularly in recent weeks, what commitment can she give that at the next East-West meeting, TO ministers will make it clear their support for the freedom of movement of people, opposition to any hardening of border, and opposition to any deporting of people from here to either Britain, Rwanda or anywhere else that they don't want to go to?
Minister.
Immigration is an accepted matter. It is a matter for the UK government. Of course, we liaise with them in relation to this because immigration has a significant impact on the public services, for example, rolled out through Northern Ireland Department. So it's in our interest to ensure that we've got a close working relationship with the UK government in this. We have heard many times in terms of the challenges in relation to getting the right education, the right support, the right housing. There's no doubt that the pressures on housing and available housing is giving rise to significant concern and consternation. And I will repeat what I had said in relation to last week, which is that our information is that a significant number of those coming to Northern Ireland are coming through the Republic of Ireland route. We have heard a different narrative from the Republic of Ireland government. This is clearly a complicated issue that requires conversation and discussion and solutions. I think when people throughout Northern Ireland, throughout Ireland, are under pressure in terms of housing and public services, that is not helping the current situation. And I think that what is now required is for people to take the heat out of this issue, to have sensible conversations. It's a complicated issue, to get to the bottom of exactly what's happening and what needs to be done.
Thank you, members. That point of order.
Madam Principal Deputy Speaker, it would be good to get your advice on this matter. During the proceedings, I'm sure with the best of intentions, the Deputy First Minister said that the Safeguarding the Union paper was negotiated between the UK Government and Northern Ireland. I'm sure she'll want to correct that. That is not true. It was negotiated, as far as I understand, between the DUP and the UK Government. No other parties in Northern Ireland or indeed the Irish Government were involved in negotiating the Safeguarding the Union paper.
As far as I can say, it's not a point of order. You've got it in the record, but what I'll do is I'll refer to the Speaker and his officials and they can take it through that. Point of order.
Speaker, as far as I heard the Deputy First Minister, she stated that the immigration has an impact on public services. I don't believe that's a correct or truthful comment, so I'd ask your office to review that point as well.
And again, that's not a point of order, but you've got it in the record and I'll refer to the Speaker and his officials. So if there's no other points of order, I'll move on. Okay, so I've